into our next phase of the word from Genesis 1 and 28. Last week, we looked at the mandate that said that how Jesus or how God spoke to us and said, be fruitful, multiply, replenish. And we learned from that we were created to be providers and producers. We realized that there were things that we are supposed to be bringing to the table of the earth realm. And it dawned on me that maybe we should ask ourselves sometimes, what is it that the earth is lacking that it wouldn't be lacking if I were in my right position? We were created to replenish the earth, to provide for the earth, to produce so that the earth can have what it needs. One thing before we, it will link to what we're going to talk about tonight when we talk about subduing. And one of the things that God reminded me of is how meticulous He is. God does nothing off the cuff. He's all wise. He's all knowing. And so everything that God does, everything that God says, He already has made a way for it. It's interesting that when He speaks the word, be fruitful and multiply and subdue and have dominion, He was saying it at a time after the creation and before the sin, before the fall. Why would He think it necessary for us to be able to conquer and subdue before sin even came? He had to know that there was going to be something that was going to come up that we would need to understand that we can conquer that. And so therefore, one of the things that God has impressed upon me very heavily is that He is not a reactive God, He is a proactive God. He makes a way. We say that. I've heard old people say it all my life. You know, He makes a way out of no way. And yet we agonize over the ways that He makes. He's the one that has wisdom. We don't know how to make a way for ourselves, but He knows how to make the way for us. Our issue with Him making the way is many times the process that He has us to undergo is not favorable to our flesh. We want to do it over here. He wants us to do it over there. We want to use one method. He wants us to use another. This makes sense to us. It's foolish to Him. So it's like we can't seem to get in sync with His way, even though we declare He knows more than we do, and He does. How foolish we are. Tonight we're going to look at the next phase of the mandate, which says subdue. And when you think of subdue, you think of conquering. As a matter of fact, in the original Greek, the word subdue means to trample upon. And not only trample upon, but you trample upon to control it. Is that good? So when we pursue something, or when we subdue something, we're subduing, we are capturing it, and we control it. So it's not that you just have it, you understand how to take control of something. Is that good? That is key in understanding how not only to be delivered, but how to stay delivered. One of the issues, or one of our big issues, is that when the enemy comes, we treat him as though he has the power to subdue us. That's not true. There is an element to subduing that we overlook. We understand being able to conquer. We understand being able to control. But how understanding are we when it comes to the element of pursuit? We are reactive. God is proactive. He's created us to be proactive. But we are very reactive creatures. We react to everything. We react with our feelings, for the most part. We react with our scope or our perspectives or how we know things, how we understand it. We truth of the matter is, in order for us to be successful at subduing what God has given us to subdue, we have to be in pursuit of some things. We can't wait. Some hard times that we go through, we should be going through them because we sat and waited for it to come. Come on up in here, somebody. God gave us instruction. God told us what to do all along. But we ignored God. We resisted God. We did not conquer and subdue what God told us to conquer and subdue. We sat and we waited on God like people wait on a bus. Come on up in here, somebody. There is something to being able to subdue that's called pursuit.
Right. Yes.
When we learn how to pursue those things that God has given us, those things that God has promised us, then we will be able to subdue the things God has for us. We are lazy saints.
Yes.
We don't want to work. We want to be able to be more than conquerors while we sit on the couch, while we sit in our easy chair. We don't want to study to show ourselves approved. We just want God to give us a high approval rating just because we figure we deserve it. Come on, somebody. We don't want to go through. That's a big one. We don't want to go through. We don't want to face anything. And yet, we've been equipped and even mandated and blessed with the ability to conquer. Amen. God, in his ability or in his giving us the ability to subdue, what he's let me know is that there is nothing that we will ever face. There is nothing that the devil will ever do to us. There is nothing that we will ever have to come against in our lives that we cannot overcome. That's why the word says we're more than conquerors. That's why the word teaches us we're overcomers. That's why the word let us know we can do all things through Christ that strengthens us. We have the ability to pursue. We have the ability to subdue. Come on up in here, somebody. We want to control things that's in God's charge to control. But we want to be lax on the things that God has given us to control. We can control our environments if we choose to. The issue is we have to know what the word says to do in situations that come up. How do you respond in situations that are adverse to you? How do you respond? Are you mature enough? Are you mature enough to go into your spirit rather than your flesh when things happen? If you are not mature enough, if you still react with your flesh, then you are not pursuing and you are not subduing. You are being subdued. Your flesh is ruling you. Come on, somebody.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
God wants us in a position where he can put things in our hand. We'll talk about that next time when we look at having dominion and being able to rule over some things. But we have to first learn how to pursue and conquer those things. There should never be a time that we're sitting around and the enemy takes us by surprise. We know who he is. The word said we're not ignorant of his devices. He hasn't changed his tactics. He's still the slimy rascal he always was. He hasn't changed his tune. He hasn't changed how he works. He hasn't changed his hatred towards mankind. He is still the same. And yet we come generation after generation, trial after trial, and we still faltering from this one who hasn't changed his tactic. Something is wrong with somebody. Is it him or is it us? Come on, somebody. He doesn't have the ability to subdue us. If we do things God's way, we can tell him to get his hands off our finances and he'd have to get his hands off. Get his hands off our health and he'd have to get his hands off. Get his hands off our families and he'd have to get his hands off. adhering to the principles of God. And that's where the rubber meets the road. We know what the principles say. We can have all our needs met, but we have to seek him first. What order do we start seeking God? Is he first? We taught that. We can have deliverance. But how many situations do we sit in our laurels and stay the same? We can have good health, but how many of us pursue doing the right things for our bodies? Come on, somebody. We don't pursue good health. We do what we want to our bodies. We beat them down. And then when things go wrong, we jump in the prayer line and want to exercise faith. Where is faith when you need faith to help you stand and do the right thing? That's what faith is for. That's how you subdue in the word. Come on, somebody. We can't pursue God and resist God at the same time. Is that good?
Yes.
Is that good? This is how we do. We see God telling us generation after generation, we have the ability to subdue. We have the ability to conquer. We are more than conquerors. And we start rolling our neck and doing all this stuff, but we do it in weakness.
Yes.
If we are going to subdue the way God says for us to subdue, if we are going to rule over the spirit of darkness, if we are going to rule over our destinies, if we're going to rule over that God has given us, first we must pursue truth, and we must pursue truth God's way, and we must do things God's way. Think about it as we close. Think about it. How active are you in subduing those things of God? Are you following his direction? Are you doing it the way he said? Are you trying to alter it to fit where you are? If the answer to any of those questions is yes, then you have put yourself in a position where you cannot pursue the things of God. But take hope. We have an advocate with the Father. And once we repent, once we ask Jesus to show us the way, then it's up to us to follow the way. Let's go forth and pursue the things that God has laid up for us. It does not belong to the world. It certainly does not belong to the devil. God gave it to us. Let's go and get it. God bless you, and I'll see you next week.